Welcome to the Maria Sanchez Show, seen here on KADYTV.com every Monday through Friday from 4 to 5 o'clock Pacific time. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. We are eternally grateful. And we are about the county, by the county, and for the county. So if you have anything that you'd like us to know, investigate, promote, publicize, get involved with, participate, please just contact us on the website. If you look on the right-hand side up above, it says contact us at KADYTV.com. We have in studio with our inaugural visit our Crime Stoppers correspondent / reporter. His name is Robert Worthley. He will be visiting with us every Monday afternoon to discuss the 10 most wanted in the county, which is on their website, and then the following day is published in the Ventura County Star. So if you're with us every Monday, you're going to get the advanced information, and that's what we're very proud of. And we want to welcome Robert to the studios. And I say Robert or Bob, and you're like, whatever.
Bob is shorter.
So welcome, and if
Thanks,
you prefer
Maria.
Bob, I'll
Prefer Bob,
okay.
And it's really nice to see you again.
It's great to see you too, and thank you so much for taking the time. And this is such an important facet for our community so that we know how we can make our community safer. Now, will you give us a little bit of a background about Crime Stoppers, how long it's been in existence, how it came about, what it is all about, and then, of course, how you got involved?
Sure will. Back in Albuquerque, New Mexico, 1976, around July, Albuquerque had one of the highest per capita crime rates in the nation at that time. Their police department, they were really getting frustrated, growing backlog of major crimes. And about that time, there was a young college student. His name was Michael Carmen. Michael was due to be married in about 2 weeks. And as a favor to a friend, he took an extra shift in a gas station. While Michael was working that shift, the gas station was robbed. During the robbery, Michael was point blank in the stomach with a 12-gauge shotgun. He held on to life for about 4 hours, but he wasn't able to give any information regarding the perps. Anyhow, also at that time, there was a guy named Greg McAleese, a young detective who had previously worked in the newspaper industry, and Greg was with the Albuquerque Police Department. Well, he got assigned to the case and didn't take very long at all to realize that he was going no place. No leads, nobody had any knowledge, and he realized that somebody from the community had to know something.
Case. There you go.
Okay. So he realized that somebody had to know something.
Right.
So he looked for a means to be able to elicit input from the community. He just knew the community had to do something. So he conceived of this idea of a video reenactment of the crime to be aired over local television, along with which he would have a number, or people could call, guaranteed anonymity, and even he was going to sweeten the pot with money out of his own pocket for a reward if a tip came in that led to an arrest in the case. Well, he put this idea across to the police department. They went along with it. The local TV station went along with it.
Really?
And yeah, and where have you heard of this thing happening? Yes, the idea was borrowed. So the reenactment was aired, and it wasn't too long after the reenactment was aired that the telephone rang, and it was from a tipster. And the tipster said that the reenactment triggered his mind, and he realized that he had heard a loud bang from the direction of the robbery about the right time. And he also remembered seeing a vehicle leave the area, which he recognized. And he recognized the vehicle as belonging to a resident of a neighboring apartment complex.
Wow.
So with that tip in hand, Greg and his team had followed the leads, and within 72 hours had 2 arrests. And these guys were arrested not only for the murder of Michael Carmen, but they were also arrested for a string of other robberies that had occurred. And they were subsequently tried and convicted. Well, that was the beginning. But a little bit after that tip came in, the phone rings again. And this tip had information, and it was regarding a rape of a young girl. And the tip also led to an arrest, and there were more. So Greg McAleese realized that he was onto something. So he proposed to the department that perhaps he could form an organization modeled around what he had just demonstrated seemed to work. And within about 2 months, the first Crime Stoppers unit was founded. And over the next year or so, a lot of crimes were solved as a result of this. But over time, where it's grown from then until now, we now have approximately 1,200 Crime Stoppers units located in 25 different countries. And so far, we have around 650,000 arrests from Crime Stoppers tips.
Wow.
And they're up to almost $10 billion in recovered property, which is drugs and property. So that's kind of the brief story of how the thing happened.
So that gives us historical preference, and it started in New Mexico.
Right.
And then fast forward to Ventura County.
Well, Ventura County started about 10 years later, around 1986, but it was local only. It started in Thousand Oaks. And I think February of 2007, I got invited to one of the meetings, and that's when I first got involved. And at that time, Crime Stoppers, we were just beginning to go county-wide, and also at that time it was handled primarily by the fugitive detail and the sheriff's department. If a tip came in, it went to a telephone line that was not a bilingual line, and when the tip was taken, it was faxed to the fugitive detail at the sheriff's department. Hopefully somebody would be there to pick up the fax at that time. If the call center had the wherewithal, realized it was important, they may call the one of the dispatch departments. So
so a lot of happenstance was
a lot of happenstance, yeah.
And we're speaking 2007.
And 2007. Okay. So what happened was later on that year, when I got on the board along with Leo Alvarez, and Leo had 30 years with the Oxnard Police Department, and we realized that there was brand new technology out there that was just coming online, and we needed to bring the technology up. I got to mention also we had a website, and the website hadn't been updated for several months. It was very difficult to update. It required special expertise, and we needed websites for dummies. Right. We needed something that we could handle and we could do. So what we did is we put together a strategic plan, and then we went into office, myself being president and Leo VP, in January of '08. And our strategic plan called for the first quarter of the year to bring up a new website, and also to bring up a new bilingual call center, and also to integrate new technology that only, I think, one other or possibly two other departments in the whole United States had at that time, and that was the text tipping and also the web tips. So the call center with a bilingual, for anybody that wanted to call 1-800-222-TIPS, they could use that number. But on the text messages and also on the web messages, which they could access through our website, you could actually have two-way communications with a tipster.
So we're just putting that information on the bottom of our screen here, so
there you go.
Our viewers will be able to access that. And we're going to close up this segment in just a little bit. So what I did want to let everybody know is that Bob is here to not only speak about the technology, about how you can reach the tips, how it is guaranteed anonymity, how you can avail yourself of the reward money if there is any, but we're also going to get into the 10, if there are 10, and I think it's less than that this week, most wanted in Ventura County. And again, Bob's going to be visiting with us once a week to update that. We will have a link on our website to your website, and then we'll get into the statistics and the logistics of it as well. So Bob Worthley is our guest with the Ventura County Crime Stoppers, and based on, and we'll get into a little bit too about the statistics for the county, because the statistics that you mentioned that are now worldwide are pretty staggering. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see what you have to say, since basically in 2007 it went countywide in January of 2008. Right. Maria Sanchez with the Maria Sanchez Show. We'll be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to the Maria Sanchez Show and KADYTV.com. If you're watching us live, thank you so much. We're on Monday through Friday from 4 to 5 o'clock Pacific time. If you're seeing us in the archives, thank you for taking the time to go into KADYTV.com and catch up on the latest news or what it was that we happened to handle this afternoon. Well, speaking of this afternoon, we have Bob Worthley in studio with us. He's with the Crime Stoppers. Bob, you've been with Crime Stoppers since it started in the county. You mentioned in the prior segment that it was born in Thousand Oaks, if you will, and then it went countywide in late 2007, and then January 2008.
It was before that they began to go countywide, but it was February of 2007 is when I actually came on board with Leo Alvarez.
Okay. So we're going to go into a little bit more of the detail of the technology. If you're watching the program, and we are going to flash the information of the folks that we're talking about that are most wanted in the county, Bob's going to go through one. I think the most important point that we need to emphasize is that this is confidential, anonymous information if the tipster so chooses. So, right. And that might be critical, let's say, where somebody might be in fear of retribution.
That's correct.
So they don't want to go public, but they do want to let us know that there's a problem. They think they may have an answer. And also, as I understand from our conversations on our radio program when we used to visit, you can get the money, the reward money, anonymously.
That is paid anonymously. We have a system set up.
Okay.
They're paid in cash. Nobody knows.
Right. So that's important that we don't want to put anybody in harm's way. We don't want to get anybody in trouble for doing the right thing. So you have a website that you can report anonymously. Right. You have a telephone number that's bilingual that you can report anonymously, and you can also text.
Text messaging.
Okay.
And there's a difference on those, and also two of those methods, it's also important to realize that you can have two-way communications with a tipster, but due to specialized encryption software and the way the thing is handled, there's absolutely no way that we can find out who that tipster is unless they choose to let us know who they are.
So you're saying that if somebody's texting and you're going back and forth, you don't know who that phone number is?
We do not know. And
email too?
Email is the same. The email address that we have up there is my actual email. If somebody wants to ask questions about Crime Stoppers, feel free. You want to donate to us, feel free. We're a nonprofit. All of our reward money comes from donations. But on the call center, a person would call in on the call center, give their information to the call center.
Give their tip.
The tip to the call center.
Right.
Then what they'll do is just like a dispatcher, they'll take the tip and they will have it to us generally within a few seconds after they've taken the message. And the way it's done, it goes to core management software called TipSoft. But we have it set up so that a couple of us who do the coordination and forwarding of the tips is that the message are instantaneously given to us in a BlackBerry, and then we have address groups set up in the BlackBerry so that we can forward the tip to any agency in the county within 1 minute. Now, of course, if a crime's in progress, call 911 though.
Is that right?
If you see a crime in progress, call 911, then send the tip in right away, and we can see if a reward would be appropriate at the time. But if you see a crime being committed, 911, that's the way to go. Okay, but if it's otherwise, it's a fugitive, you have information, drug activity in your neighborhood or so forth, then come through Crime Stoppers and it works out. So, but that's the call center. And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, before we get to the individual folks that you have chosen to highlight this week, how do you decide which person is worthy of a reward and how much that reward is to be? Who makes those decisions and how?
Well, the most wanteds, of course, they're given to us by law enforcement. We have nothing to do with that. They may be parole offenders, dangerous parolees. They may be fugitives and wanted by the Sheriff's Department or one of the police departments. But when it comes to the rewards, is if a tip leads to an arrest, the law enforcement agency will prepare a reward calculation sheet. And based upon several different factors, the risk to the informant, for example, the severity of the crime, how many times did they call in, how valuable was the information, and so forth, so that we can put some sort of a means of calculating as something more objective in terms of the calculation, instead of looking and say, well, that guy's worth $20. They can go on there, and so you're pretty consistent in how
Okay.
you handle the rewards.
Which is something I didn't know. So it's almost like handicapping. It
Yep.
makes the playing field level, if you
Yeah.
will.
You have a bank robbery, for example. One of ours, the Wells Fargo branch in Thousand Oaks, last January, resulted in a sizable reward for the person who called in that one, because the person was arrested, and they did a search of his home in Simi Valley, found additional information, which led to the possibility of a second robbery in Ventura County, as well as robberies in LA County. So something like that is worth more money.
Do you know how much that one was off the top of your head?
Couldn't really say. I couldn't say if
Okay.
I did know.
Okay.
But
Oh, you can't?
no, not publicly.
Oh,
no.
oh, I
No,
didn't know
that's,
that.
again, everything's confidential dealing with the guy.
Oh, my.
But this is one where the informant wasn't placed in jeopardy by giving the information. But if we had some tips, say, on a gang crime,
Right.
I'm not going to even say that we were even involved with it, or that's what led to the arrest. This is one that law enforcement agreed would be okay for us to say. One of those, you may remember Bob the Turtle.
Yes.
Bob the Turtle was ours. That was one of our first.
Ah.
And the new technology, nobody knew that. But
And you can say that now. After the
now we
fact.
can say that, yeah.
So why don't let's
continue.
go into this week's, and again, today is Monday, October 11th of 2010,
Okay.
and that's what you're going to share with us, who the Crime Stoppers have deemed the most wanted.
Right.
And why don't you start with your list? And we're going to put up the information as you
Okay.
relay it. So, yeah, Francisco Gomez.
Okay, Francisco Gomez, a.k.a. Frank Javier Gomez. He's Hispanic, 46 years old, 5'6", 155, black hair, brown eyes. He's a sex offender with a parole warrant for absconding.
And what, is this the first time he's been most wanted, or do you have any history of when his crimes were committed, or?
I don't have his total history here.
Okay.
And I'm going to give a little bit of history on a couple of bad guys in here.
Okay.
And realize that what history I provide is going to come from public records, because we cannot give information from police records.
Of course.
That would be a crime.
Right.
So
Thank
I'm
you
gonna-
for making that. In other words, we're sharing as much information as is legally being allowed to be shared. So obviously we
Right.
don't want to violate anybody's rights, but we want to do right by the county.
That's correct.
Okay. So there we go.
So we can go into public records on some of these to give you an idea on how they are. But in terms of what they're wanted for, that's legitimate.
Okay.
So basically his is a parole warrant. So we would coordinate that with the California Department of Corrections, with the parole agents.
Okay.
And when we get information on a wanted parolee, we in parallel send the information to the law enforcement agency where the person is at the time, and in parallel we send the information to the parole department so they can coordinate.
Okay. So our
Okay.
next one?
Okay. We're looking at Harold Edward Marshall Jr. He's Hispanic, 39 years old, 6 foot, 235, brown hair, hazel eyes. He has tattoos of chiques on the back of his neck, teardrop below his left eye, SSXCH, Southside Chiquis, on the side of his neck, and he's also on a parole warrant for absconding.
And let's do one more before we take another break. We're going through Ventura County's most wanted with Robert Worthley with Crime Stoppers, and we'll do one more and then we'll take a break.
Okay, we have Brett Allen, compositor. He's white, 36 years old, 5'10", 165, brown hair, hazel eyes, 2 violation of probation warrants for possession of drugs and under the influence of drugs.
Okay. And then we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll go into the rest of the most wanted. If you could flash the information about contacting Crime Stoppers now, that would be, thank you very much. That way, if somebody knew one of those first 3, that they could just get on the horn and take care of business and not have to wait through the break.
Right.
Maria Sanchez with KADYTV.com, and we are talking about Ventura County's Most Wanted with Robert Worthley. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for watching. To the Maria Sanchez Show, Monday through Friday, 4 to 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, and kadytv.com. We are about the county, by the county, for the county. Anything that we can do to help make this community as wonderful as possible. We all live here for that very reason. And to that end, that's one of the reasons that we've got Bob Worthley in studio with us, because Bob is with Crime Stoppers, and they publish every week the 10 most wanted. And so Bob has made the commitment to visit with us every Monday because, of course, you post it on your website, but the Ventura County Star publishes it Tuesday morning. So let's just say this, that you got a little bit of a sneak peek almost, if you will. And Bob has just shared in the last segment the first 3 most wanted, and just go ahead with the next, please.
Okay, 3 more to go.
3 more. Okay, so we have the 6 most wanted this week.
That's right.
So we're going to number 4. There we go.
Number 4, Billy Darlene Bloom. She's white, 35 years old, 5'7", 140 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. She has 2 failure to appear warrants for identity theft and insufficient checks, and a violation of probation warrant for non-sufficient fund checks.
And we can just, I think we can just keep going on, and then, because I do want to ask you a few more questions about the program, but let's...
Okay, fine. And you're going to cover one by one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we have Christopher Bishop. He's Hispanic, 35 years old, 5'11", 175, black hair, brown eyes. Failure to appear warrant for 2 counts of corporal injury to a child. Now, Bishop, he's our bad boy of this week. The next one is also pretty bad. This guy in Ventura County alone, and this is in public records, has 21 law enforcement contacts in the last 4 years alone. Santa Paula PD, 14 times. Ventura PD, 3. Sheriff's Department, 2. 11 of them were under the influence of controlled substances, but he also has petty theft, grand theft, burglary, corporal injury to a spouse or cohabitant, and some other things. So this is Christopher Bishop.
Corporal injury, and he's wanted for that for a child?
For a child and to a spouse, according.
And to a spouse. Okay.
And this is in the history, strictly Ventura County history. And we're just looking, all we can do is look up the codes. I didn't look up the details of any of the cases.
Thank you.
Because we can't do that. Yeah. And we have James Lewis Apodaca. He's Hispanic, 5'10", 190, black hair, brown eyes. He has tattoos of Elias on his left wrist, Melanie on his right arm, Junior on his right wrist, in memory of Javier on his right arm, and both arms are sleeved in tattoos. Apodaca, he's on parole for armed robbery, assault with intent to commit a sex offense. He's considered a high-risk sex offender. On October 8th, he removed his GPS tracking device. He's had 11 contacts with Oxnard PD, 2 with the Highway Patrol, 1 with the Sheriff's Department, and 1 with VPD. 10 of the 15 contacts were traffic-related, 3 of them speeding. But his other local arrests, again, local public records, accessible through the internet, were for child cruelty, 2 counts, possession, false ID, robbery, use of a firearm, which gave him an additional term, and also driving under the influence. So that's a little background on James Lewis Apodaca.
And then we have one more. Was that it?
Oh, that's it. That's 6.
Okay, that's 6. Sorry.
Yep.
So 6 of Ventura County's most wanted, and not, I don't know what to say, but pretty dangerous sounding.
They are.
I mean, it's not trivial, in other words.
Not trivially at all.
Now, can you let us know how successful the Ventura County Crime Stoppers have been in general?
Well, in general, since the inception of the program, there's been about 1,124 felony arrests.
Wow.
But our tip rate and our arrest rate has almost tripled since the new technology came on. So we're having a lot better results right now. And it's still a work in progress. I mean, we're still working on this, and people are getting trained. We're working with the different departments, trying to improve our communications, and it's working out. But that doesn't include a school program.
Does not.
Does not include the school program. And we have Crime Stoppers operating in several schools. Oxnard, the high schools in Oxnard, Ojai, Santa Paula, Simi Valley, Fillmore. Several of the schools are on board with our program, and we have a system set up that, working with administrators or with the police officers who are their school resource officers, if a student has information regarding a crime on campus, weapons, drugs, graffiti, or so forth, and not turning them into snitches, because most of the students don't want these kids on their campus anyhow. They're there to learn.
Right.
They can go to one of the authorities and guaranteed anonymity, and they can advise. And if an arrest ensues, or if there's an administrative action taken, the tip is valid, then we fund these people with a pot of money. They'll pay the student a certain amount of money. It's usually $50 cash for help, for the help that's been given. And it's pretty successful. We've had some months where we've had 20, 25 tips come into us from the schools. Oh yeah, that many.
That's a lot.
Most of them are minor amounts of marijuana. There's some major drugs, prescription pills, and those are usually felonies. Weapons on campus, usually knives. But we've had some pretty good tips also. We've had some major graffiti tips. It was a Crime Stoppers tip that led to multiple arrests on that major vandalism that occurred at Villanova Prep School a year or so ago. Remember that one?
Yep.
That was very major. And we've had tips also that led to major arrests on other schools.
Of all the contact information, my guess is that you get more texts than anything, or am I wrong?
We thought we were going to get more texts than we do, though most of the text messages that we have been pretty valuable. We're now getting more tips coming in from the web, because they can bring up a form, they can bring it up in Spanish or English, they can take their time, and they can write out the information that they need.
And Bob, you mentioned your Crime Stoppers is a nonprofit.
Yes, we are.
501c3?
We're a 501c3 nonprofit.
So are you a volunteer?
We're volunteers. All of us are volunteers on the board. Leo Alvarez, that puts together the Most Wanted and everything else on it, he's putting in a good 20, 25, 30 hours a week on the program.
That is amazing.
So we have a few people in there. We have our treasurer also served 2 years on the grand jury, and she's currently a commissioner with the Juvenile Justice Commission. We have the VP right now works with security with one of the colleges in Santa Barbara, and he's also a volunteer in policing with Ventura PD. So we have our secretary, has been secretary for many years. She's also a volunteer in policing with several thousand hours of volunteer time, as well as the time she's put into Crime Stoppers. Which
goes with our adage about everybody matters, and that as much good news as possible that we can share. And as I've said in the past, my personal adage is one voice, one vote, and one paycheck, that what you do, how you spend your money, and how you choose your candidates does have an effect on what happens in our world. And Robert, you're a primary example of that. I mean, thank you so much for sharing this. And again, thank you so much for taking the time, not only here with us on the program, but every week that you do what you do. And I look forward to our visits every week. Unfortunately, it's the bad news is that you're talking about people that are hurting others in our community. The good news is that we're making it public so that hopefully it will be curtailed and or end.
And I had one other thing, if I might. One of these times coming up. Also, as a volunteer, I'm also the coordinator of the Oxnard Police Department's Volunteer and Policing Program. We have a really dynamic program running right now, and we do have a new academy that we're going to be running starting in January. So perhaps next time around I'd have a few minutes on that, because we're recruiting now.
Yeah. Perfect. We'll go into that.
All right.
So again, Bob Worthley with Crime Stoppers, Maria Sanchez with The Maria Sanchez Show. Thank you so much for your time. And if you know anything, the anonymity is guaranteed. You're safe. You don't have to worry about it coming back to you, retribution or anything like that. You're watching The Maria Sanchez Show on KADYTV.com. Again, thank you for your eyes.